I want to talk to you about this. There's a very pervasive phenomenon. We see this problem of people having like psoriasis, the itchiness of the skin, the rashes on the skin, weight gain, depression, irritable bowel syndrome. So many different conditions people are suffering with these days, and there's a common factor that combines them all, that unites them all, and it's related to the gut. And I interviewed this doctor. He's a cardiologist, Dr. William Davis, who actually has this very set focus on the gut. Um, because he started as a cardiologist seeing the results that patients with heart issues had and heart problems from improving their gut health. So I interviewed him recently. He talked about this phenomenon of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, also known as SIBO. And this is where this bacteria, these bad bacteria like Salmonella, for instance, Campylobacter, um, these are that are supposed to be in the large intestine, in the bowel, they're able to get out of there and start proliferating in the small intestine where they're not supposed to be in this environment that isn't able to accommodate them. And they have a very large turnover rate. They're dying very quickly. And you imagine so many, this huge concentration of this bacteria dying at such a large rate. These toxins that they give off as they die, they're dead carcasses. It's called endotoxin. This seeps into the bloodstream, particularly, I guess, if you have an issue like leaky gut, and it's in the bloodstream and then goes on to cause inflammation in different parts of the body, including the brain, which is particularly concerning. And this has been linked to, we know the brain inflammation is linked to the problems like dementia, increasingly Alzheimer's disease. So something that starts in your gut, a problem with your gut, could lead to a neurodegenerative condition potentially. How is this happening? Why are people more susceptible to this now than before? One of the main things that Dr. Davis points to, and many physicians and scientists are pointing to, is the use of antibiotics, which are wiping out the beneficial species like L. reuteri that are that should be in the intestine to counter the bad bacteria that I mentioned before. Um, it's not to say we shouldn't be taking antibiotics. These things have a time and place, but we're really seeing a heavy use of these in cases. People have a very simple dental procedure, maybe a deep clean, they might be prescribed antibiotics. Probably not really necessary often in those cases. And I've been told by another doctor that you can select to use specific targeted antibiotics as opposed to ones that just wipe out everything, which is obviously a real problem. What can you do about this? Well, for one, there are ways to replenish like the beneficial bacteria like L. reuteri that have been lost in the body. And if you check out my video, do a search for vital signs on Epoch TV, you can find this video. There's two videos. One is Wheat Belly with Dr. Davis. Another one is Super Gut, where he's talking about a method where you can actually start to replace. And it's not just about having yogurt. This is a much more effective way of actually replenishing these lost bacteria that you need in the gut. I also spoke recently, this little animation showing what I'm talking about. This area, this is where it's all happening. You've got these microbes proliferating in the gut, seeping into the bloodstream, causing endotoxemia, which leads to inflammation. I also interviewed another doctor recently, Dr. Anita Gupta, who's an obstetrician gynecologist, talking about why so many women are experiencing like different issues, like particularly vaginal problems. And she says 99% of the time it's caused by the gut. It's a gut issue because they have these bacteria proliferating in the gut that aren't supposed to be there. How do you gauge this problem? If you want to, again, check out the video I mentioned with Dr. Davis, he talks about a method that he's kind of customized where people can use a device that can be purchased to measure the level of, it's a way, it looks at your breath and is able to measure, give a gauge of how much of this bacteria is present in your gut. Another way is simply looking at your poop. I've always wondered, doing all these different interviews, the question always comes to mind, what about how much of an indicator is our poop, which you have on hand all the time to look at? How much of an indicator is that? Dr. Gupta said this is something that in India, every doctor is asking their patients. One of the first things they ask them, are you pooping regularly? When was the last time you pooped? How often do you do that? What does it look like? And she said things like, if you have to, getting a bit gross here, but if you have to wipe too much, if it has floaters, if it's fragmented, if you're backed up, if you're not going every 3 or 4 days, that can be an indication that you're dealing with a problem like SIBO. So this video will be coming out soon, my interview with Dr. Gupta. Keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, yeah, check out Epoch TV Vital Signs. That's where my videos are. And the interviews with Dr. William Davis, Super Gut, and Wheat Belly, talking in depth about this issue of SIBO, which is potentially affecting a huge number of Americans. He says half of Americans are dealing with this problem. Check out those videos. Very good to be with you. I'm Brendon Fallon, health journalist. Hope to see you again soon.